Welcome back to A Tales of Two Bros. I am Angel,
I'm Adan.
and this is our marvelous review of Werewolf by Night. Worth the watch or a waste of time? Find out. If you're interested in saving some money, be it gas, groceries, restaurants, at certain restaurants, check out the description below to find out how you can save. Spoilers, Disney Plus just released, well, not just released, by the time of this review, it's been a couple days. I guess you'll say their Halloween special. I believe it's a one shot. Werewolf by Night is originally a Marvel comic book several years ago. This is a series that introduced the world of Moon Knight.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, when we were watching Moon Knight, they were giving out the free digital scans, and one of them was, correct me if I'm wrong, Werewolf by Night.
If you watch Moon Knight, there were some QR codes that posted throughout the episode. The
Yeah.
one episode, like per episode, there was a QR code. And if you scanned it, you got a digital comic per episode. And the first one was a Werewolf by Night comic where the introduction of Moon Knight happened. Similar to where how Wolverine was introduced into the Marvel universe through a Hawk issue.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like full circle here where we see a Wolf by Night show or episode one shot that introduced Moon Knight in the comics. Off the bat, I like how it was presented. It was presented in a way like old school, cheap horror films or horror shows. It wasn't scary, but back in the day where black and white, not we didn't were that so sophisticated, our imagination ran wild with us. And I can see this if it was done back in the day, how people would get scared.
Oh,
I
and
was not scared.
it would have been
It was
considered ultra violent for back in the day, too.
to say that this was one of the most violent Marvel films or shows or production to date. And I don't think we would have had it if they kept it in color.
Oh, absolutely not. There's literally scenes where we know it's blood, but it's
Yes.
like it's black and white, so they
Mhm.
can kind of get away with it. But it's literally splashing on the camera. Like you see guys'
Right.
limbs get ripped off and stuff like that, splashing on the camera.
Well,
One
you're
guy gets
seeing
incinerated.
people
Yeah,
getting cut, throat cut, head not
yeah.
chopped off, but penetrated by the sword. And
Hmm.
that's an old trick. They've done it a lot of times for television, regular television, like ABC, CBS, NBC, when they're showing a movie that was originally rated R or PG, but there was strong violence in it or depiction of it. They change it to black and white
Yeah,
that you don't see the actual red.
you're right because you don't see the actual red. Great example. Remember Battle Angel Alita, the live
Mm-hmm.
action adaptation? All the characters either had like blue or black blood, even though they're essentially humans. They're cyborgs. They're not
Mm-hmm.
androids. But like if they get killed or whatever, all you see is blue or black. And
Right.
it was like a one of those loopholes that goes by. Like if it's not the right color, then it's not going to be something that they have to care about
Right.
as much.
The Motion Picture Association, they have some guidelines, and they also done this not just on the major networks, but on the sub networks like, well, now is Fox and CW, but there's shows like I don't remember like the Kung Fu Theater movies on Saturdays. They used to have the drive-in theater,
Yeah, yeah.
those things, and Quentin Tarantino did this with Kill Bill with the Crazy 88s. That when it becomes ultra violent, instead of editing out and not showing the audience what happens, they made it into black and white. And for the longest time, when I was a kid, I was like, why did it change? Because I didn't get it. It's like, I know that's blood. But again, with the Motion Picture Association, their guidelines for ratings, that was the saving grace. And then
Hmm.
for Kill Bill, when instead of being an R, like unrated,
It would have been like unrated or
yeah,
NC-17, one of those two, because
right, where
those are the only
he
other two above R technically.
So in Kill Bill, they edit it in the black and white, and I also have a version where it's even longer of that scene. But I like how they do it with Quentin Tarantino, where like she blinks and it changes. But anyway, how well versed are you with Werewolf by Night? I personally am not.
That's the funny thing. So I am familiar with the character and some of the exploits of the character, but I
Hmm.
never really read the Werewolf by Night comics. I knew of Werewolf by Night through involvement of other characters. Like I'll read like one shots or something like that, and I'll have the Werewolf by
Hmm.
Night character. Anybody in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a point in the series where Werewolf by Night actually joins a Nick Fury led group that is basically like they're called like the Monster Squad. It's literally like
Hmm.
Frankenstein,
I remember those.
it's like Amotep, or like it's a mummy character. I forget, I may be
Hmm.
mispronouncing the name. Man Thing is definitely in there, or he comes in and out, and then Blade occasionally comes in, and it was like
Right.
formed by Nick to like track down other monsters, like do the supernatural stuff. Of course, Werewolf by Night has had a lot of heavy history. Did have heavy history going against Dracula and other characters, and technically, there's more than one Werewolf by Night character. There was one main character that was Werewolf by Night, and then someone else took the mantle. Which I want to say our main character, Jack Russell, is the
Hmm.
second person, not the first person to be Werewolf by Night in the
Okay.
comics. I could be wrong.
I I thought that they're going to do a switcheroo and make the girl Alyssa
Oh, Alyssa
the werewolf.
Bloodstone.
Yeah, I thought they're going to make her into that for some reason.
Oh
It
no,
was like
she's definitely a comic book character too. And I
right.
was just talking to a friend about that. Like I know even less about Alyssa Bloodstone, but I do know in the comics there was like a moment where they're like doing medium monster hunters, and because they're trying to come up with this thing against like Dracula or some other monster, some big deal,
Hmm.
and she was just talking a lot of mad crap to Blade. Blade's like
Okay.
there, and she goes, "Oh," it's like just she's talking down to him, like, "What do you hunt?" He's like, "I hunt vampires." She's like, "Ah, so the weakest, the lesser things." He's like, no, like as I could kill it, like I specialize in it.
Right.
It's like that scene. It was like it reminded me of that scene in the Adventure Brothers where they're talking to
Oh,
the Blackula hunter.
yeah, yeah.
He's like, they're a lot like vampires, but they're Blackulas. And they're like,
Right.
that's what you hunt. He's like, yeah, yeah. It just reminded me
Right.
of that, and that's an actual thing that happened in the comics. So I was interested to see how they would portray her, because that was my
Hmm.
only intake I had of her. I
I
mean,
couldn't help but look at her and think of Anne Hathaway.
dude, I
She
thought
looked
it was
a
Anne
lot.
Hathaway at first too. I
No, because
mean,
Anne Hathaway, she can really transform. She's really good. I'm
mhm,
watching currently right now, and she plays, the wife of the creator or a founder, co-founder of WeWork,
mm.
and We Crashed. There we go on Apple TV, and I'm watching it now, and she just transforms in the sense of accents and that nature. But yes, let's get into the one shot. Like I said, and this has been a while since they have done a one shot. They usually have done one shots like on the DVD copies you get. Hail the King, Funny Way. I forgot, like Funny Way into the Diner. There's been several of those throughout the MCU here and
Yeah,
there. They were doing heavily,
on
and then they stopped.
in the first go around with MCU, the first wave, they would have,
Right,
yeah. But even at then,
right.
those one shots were like 10, 15 minutes tops.
No, true. But what I'm saying is like it was stuck with there. Here is like a one shot of a new characters in the MCU.
Oh, absolutely.
And I did appreciate that is a different approach. It's a different look. We've had the espionage one, like the spies with episodes. We have the comedy version, action-packed ones. We have had origin stories and things of that nature. Here, it's not an origin story. It's just it. And that's what's great about it too. It's not an origin, so we don't have to see how this person came to be. He is just what he is.
It can be argued as Elsa Bloodstone's origin. You get a little bit of her background and her story with it,
Yeah,
but
but
it's
there's
technically
it's not called Bloodstone. It's called Werewolf by Night.
agreed.
So, right. And here you have several characters coming at once. You have Man Thing, which is a Marvel's copy of Swamp Thing from DC.
With some minor changes, but yeah.
And of course, you have Werewolf by Night, and then you have the Bloodstone family. I don't know the other characters, even though one reminded me of David Bowie and looked like what Morbius should be looking like or should look like. I
Actually,
don't know those side
I don't
characters.
know those side characters here. I
And
feel
they
like they should
had
have been thrown away.
right,
Characters.
and they had the Scotsman from Samurai Jack.
Is
I'm
that
sorry,
is that who it
he
is?
I don't know who he is, but that's what he reminded me of.
Oh,
He had that voice, he had that laddie. Only thing was missing that
it
he
could be a
was
little bit
not
lonely hunting.
right. The thing is, if he was just like mumbling his words, pretty much like the one from Samurai Jack, it would have been like a carbon copy. But that's how we remind when I first heard him speaking. That's where my mind went to.
That's a funny tie-in. I didn't think about that guy when I
Yeah,
was watching that.
but that's just me.
Speaking of
Um,
voices, the
the, na-
narrator,
yeah, who was that?
Chris Hemsworth. That was Thor.
Holy crap!
That was Thor.
I wasn't paying attention. I didn't look at the credits. I was just wondering, like, who is that? I was like, good job.
Yeah, that
Oh,
I found out about that just the other day too, and I was like, wait a minute, and I started listening to it, like really, really listening to it. I'm like,
mhm.
oh my god, that is Thor. He just like
Yeah.
cut off the accent a little bit and started playing
Mhm.
out the tone. And you know what? That even though I know you have a thing about like replaying some people and actors, I'm like, I don't mind it when it's voice work, especially when they do a good job of covering themselves.
Right, but he's not playing another character in this.
He-
You know what I'm saying? He's a narrator, so he's not like the Watcher or
True.
Captain America, doing another character altogether that's going to be on. That I don't mind. It's just, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Does that make sense? I mean, it's not his first time doing voiceover work in the MCU. He's reprised his role as Thor in the What If series and stuff like that. Okay, so it's under an hour long. It goes relatively fast, I think. It cut to the chase. It didn't cut in quarters, it didn't drag.
Correct.
And I was heavily impressed with the action. Alyssa's fighting style was wow, especially when she took down the Scotsman on that wrestling move that she did. We were like, whoa.
So wait, the Scotsman, not the Asian guy,
No, well,
because
when
the
we
Scotsman was taken down by a man thing, technically.
ultimately, yes, but the first action we see is with the Scotsman and Alyssa. She takes
Okay.
his axe. That's what I'm saying. Like the way she took him down, and then the way she fought the Asian dude. I can't remember his name, but the way she got out of the trenches, I was like, that's odd. Where she did like a handstand and then laid on her back onto the floor and
Yeah,
shoot
I do
that
remember
thing.
that.
I was
Yeah.
like, that looked kind for me, it looked uncomfortable, but it was also kind of cool. I guess she did it to grab his arm and then roll onto her back from there. I don't know. It was pretty cool. And then when Jack becomes the werewolf, and that scene what he's doing was pretty awesome. I do have one gripe though. When he's fighting the people that look like the TVA, they look a lot like the TVA.
Yeah.
Their sticks were not as the disintegrator. But
Hmm.
that one guy waiting by the he
By
made
the
no
door.
sense. He stood there the whole time. I was like, either get the hell out or get involved. But he became like, those big fights where everyone's fighting, but it's
You got
one
the
on
one guy
one.
standing in the corner going, like,
He's moving around, making
"When's
stuff
my
like he's
turn?"
about to. Yeah. But the gate is going down slowly. And I was like, dude, I would have been out. I would have waited to, because he was just standing there, not even waving the baton as if he's about to strike. One other thing, when Jack is trying to escape and claw down the wall or the steel door,
Hmm.
then after everything happens and he recognizes Alyssa and leaves, he knows exactly where the other door is. It's like, so wait a minute. So you're busy clawing yourself out of the door, steel door, but you know there's an exit right there because he goes right to it when he leaves Alyssa.
That episode was done.
I mean, I'm just saying, I was like, what? I guess. But anyway, was there a moment that you liked?
Oh, well, yeah, there was. I am going to make one little revision to what I said earlier about the narrator's voice.
It's not Chris Hemsworth?
It's not. I'm 50% right though. It is Thor's voice. But Thor from the cartoon is voiced by Rick D. Wasserman. He's voiced Thor multiple times in the cartoons.
You're wrong, but not wrong.
Exactly. I'll take a 50% credit for that answer. Actually, there was a couple things I liked about it. The fights were entertaining, and definitely the most brutal fight was at the end with the Wolfman.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Absolutely. It took me by surprise seeing how brutal it was. I mean,
Hmm.
granted, like when they shot the guy in the jaw with
The
the
Asian dude.
arrow, and they showed the jaw in the arrow, I'm like, whoa.
See, I thought it was in the neck,
At first,
right?
yeah, maybe, and then
But
they
she was
show
covering
her.
her mouth.
She suffocated him. That's what she did.
No, no, she didn't.
She
Because no,
she
she
covered both
did.
his nose and mouth.
No, she just covered his mouth. She just covered
Oh,
his mouth because his nose was able to breathe.
oh, I thought she
But
covered both.
maybe from my perspective, where I saw it, it looked like his nose was not covered at all. But maybe it was because he was just like seemed like he was in breathing pain, and that the arrows were poisonous,
Oh, they could have
or
been
the
poisonous.
darts,
I thought
the
he was
darts.
choking on his own blood.
Maybe that could have been too,
Hmm.
but didn't seem like he was good. Yeah, because it could have hit his tongue. It could
Yeah.
have went through his tongue.
I mean, he would
So
have died either way. He lost his arm. His arm was chopped
correct.
off, and
Hmm.
it wasn't soldered or anything. It was just chopped
No.
off, and then he got through
Hmm.
there. He was going to die of blood loss, suffocation. Something was going to happen. He was not going to
Yes.
make it through. And then the first fight with her and the Scotsman, I was like, when he smashed her head into the brick
Oh
wall,
my God.
and
I'm
then she
surprised she
comes
wasn't
up like
even worse.
James Bond style, and just with a, it's not even a gash, just like.
And I expected like major bruise or blood gash.
She
Yeah,
barely had anything on her.
nothing. It seemed like he was smashing her because it was like a step
It was like,
thing,
yeah, because it was like like
a
a
ledge.
concrete maze. It basically
Right.
they were in a maze.
Labyrinth.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
labyrinth.
they're a labyrinth. But what I'm saying, like where he was slamming her, it looked like a step or a ledge
Yeah,
going up that she was getting
absolutely.
hit on the crease or the corner.
Anybody else, they would have had
Pretty.
a split gall, like they would at least been bleeding. He
Uh,
hit her like several times. For me, I also loved some of the humor that they did,
yes.
like the bit with the wall where he's like, I got this little disc here that like supposedly like it
How do you turn it
explodes.
on?
How you
How do
turn
you
it
turn
on?
it
And
on?
she's trying, and he's like, oh, it's like this, and he turns it off, and they both start running.
But then no, the thing was like, how do you turn it on? I don't know how to. And then as he's saying, I don't know how it
He
turns
turns it
on. It's
on.
like
Yeah.
it was like, oh God. And I could be mistaken. I think this is the first definitely MCU program, like show. I'm not sure they did in the movie. Maybe they have, but they used the word they cursed.
I want to say they cussed before too.
But on a show,
Uh, yeah, like I think they get
I
I
think they
think
did.
you
I
like
think they
PG
did in
13. You're allowed to do like one cuss or something like that,
right.
depending on
I think they
what you're
did it
saying.
in. I think they did it in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I
Hmm.
think they did it there for a movie. I think this is the first like show they done it in. I don't know. They done it in She-Hulk yet. Maybe they did it in Moon Knight. I can't remember. For those watching, listening, please comment below.
I
So
feel like
you
Moon Knight would be the one
show
they would cuss in.
right. I think they did, but comment below if Moon Knight or Werewolf by Night was the first to have a curse word in it. And it was just it
Yeah,
was nothing big, it was shit. Anyway, I was hoping for an end credit.
they did have an end credit scene.
What?
The whole was the get sushi.
Oh, I don't. Well, that was prior though. It wasn't post credit. I'm thinking like post
Oh,
credit, like after the
oh,
credits,
oh! I
like
got you. I
some.
got you.
And talking about the humor, and there it was, the humor with Man Thing.
Hmm.
He was to me the comic relief.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was
which
the comic relief.
it's funny because in the comics, Man Thing juggles between being a horrifying creature to like a comical creature because of the nature of how Man Things is.
Well,
Like,
he was here.
yeah, you know,
They captured it here.
no, I agree. And that's why I'm
Oh,
saying like it's a pretty good capture. The thing that makes Man Thing terrifying is like he can melt people, like incinerate them, but it's
like
more
we saw.
based as a reactionary feature. So like the thing, if you feel burn at the touch of the Man Thing, if you feel fear, or it's some kind of slogan like that is his catchphrase.
Hmm.
So basically, if you have a fear response, especially if you're afraid of Man Thing, he'll be able to touch you, and then just like all the other characters, you're incinerated. Like just not even
They
yeah.
show that exactly when he grabbed Jack, nothing happened.
Jack
So,
sees him as a friend, and he tells
well,
her,
they are friends. Yeah.
yeah, and he tells her like when you see him, be calm and call him Ted. Don't freak out. Don't. It's like he basically gave her a clue. Oh,
Hmm.
to survive Man Thing.
When he shows up again, when he kills the stepmother,
Yeah,
and I think he just looks at Alyssa and he's like, he went that way, and he just walks away, kind of goes like, "Thank you," in a way like the way he grunts sounds like he
yeah.
says "thank you." It
The
is
design of him was actually really good for a CGI character too. I will say.
of man. Yes,
Yeah.
of Man Thing, very much so. In comparison to what I've seen with She-Hulk, I have not watched the series yet, but what I've seen, I just can't help but look at and think of Fiona from Shrek.
And then, speaking of look, what did you think of the werewolf look, the Wolfman look?
Very reminiscent of the old black and whites of Werewolf, especially with Michael Landon back in the day when he was a werewolf. So I like that aspect. I saw where they're going, and I like where they brought it back. This is where like repeating aspects of the past works in their favor. in
Hmm.
comparison to WandaVision. WandaVision did old episodes, right, or reenactments of old episodes, black and white.
Episodically, yeah.
Right, but I couldn't stand those,
Yeah.
and you couldn't stand those either because it was over the top. Here, it was not over the top. It was just a story being told in present day because it wasn't a period piece, but they did it in a style like back in the 1960s, 70s, with the black and whites, maybe of
I was gonna say like
50s,
40s or
maybe
50s.
40.
Yeah.
Whenever the no the boom of the television and black and whites was
Hmm.
was a common thing, they captured it good. But again, it's a modern day story. The way they're talking and the cadence, the style of dress is current. And I said, like you said, or what I said is, they honored the genre in the
Did
sense
you
of
see the
the
burn
werewolf.
marks?
Burn marks
So
on who?
speaking of the modern enjoying the genre, remember like the only thing I can think of that references this is Fight Club, but there you know the whole thing about like certain films at a certain age.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. The burn marks on on the screen. Yes,
Yeah.
I said that to Kim. It's like, wow, they even got that in. I was
Mhm.
like, okay, yes, that's like the burn marks is more like
It's a marker for the projectionist to know when to
right.
switch reels.
Right. And yes, in Fight Club, they use that as a way to show in some obscenity stuff
Hmm.
or is about to happen. So yeah, that's very common in, yes, when you're watching a movie in the movie theater. Yeah, you will see that a lot. And they gave that it, granted, usually it's more grainy. The film is more grainy. Here is more
Hmm.
it's 4K or stuff. But I saw that they did like, I think they did it twice.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 times. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I caught that. I was like, all right, that's a good touch on detail. Anything else? Was there a moment that you did not like? Because I mentioned my little. There was more like nitpicking, but
Uh, you know what? This got me into a state where I wanted more,
yeah,
and you know what? And that's a good sensation to me for a Marvel franchise or Marvel product.
hmm hmm
Sometimes you don't have to go all in and like we're gonna do everything big and wild and like have a full series or series of movies. But if you do one thing and then you can get public audience to say, "Hey, we like that. We want more." I feel like that would then be a good reason. Hey, let's start doing a series based on this. Like, do we
I
give them
mean,
a taste? For me, I am interested.
well, there is talks or rumors, what have you, that a Midnight Suns series may come out,
I
and
did
that would
hear
be a
that.
good. It would be a good blend to have those two, Man Thing and Werewolf by Night, with Moon Knight, Daredevil, maybe the Punisher, maybe
Or
Ghost Rider.
Blade. Hmm.
Correct. And if you notice, when the credits were pretty much done, in Disney Plus, when the credits are done, they usually shorten, minimize. There you go, minimize the credits to show if you like this, you can watch this.
Hmm.
And when they minimize it, they showed Moon Knight.
Yeah,
They have that connection
they do.
again through the comic books, how his origin came about, and that would be a cool thing to see, like how those two met in the MCU, not through the comic book, but how Moon Knight, Jack Russell, and came to be. Because it's different here in the comic book. Moon Knight was hired by a group to take down Werewolf by Night.
He was hired as a
So,
mercenary, and things changed.
and he will be different, of course, because how Moon Knight was presented to us in the MCU. So I would like to see that. And it could be a small thing. It could be an episodic. It could be a one shot here as well, or it could be a nice lead to another series, as we mentioned, the Midnight Suns.
Or even
That'd be
Monster
right.
Squad. I mean, honestly, if they came out with like another short with Werewolf by Night and like or those characters, I would be intrigued enough to say,
Like I said before, they do it annually. Do it like
yeah,
a Halloween thing because came out in October, right at the beginning of October.
yeah, I did.
As a Halloween theme. That's how I took it. It made sense to me to have it, in that kind of genre. So yeah, I definitely would follow and watch another episode or another. And it would be a shame if it was a one shot, but I can understand too. There's so many characters in the MCU that they can
Oh yeah.
just give us a taste. And maybe it was a taste. Maybe you'll say, let's test it out. Let's see how it goes. Let's see if the audience bites.
I think
Yep.
that's not a bad idea. Like to see how the
Yeah.
audience feels about it, and like I would be intrigued to see how they do the other monsters now, because like one of them was supposed to be Dracula on the wall. I don't think it
Right.
was, but it was supposed to be like Dracula.
there was countless Easter eggs throughout this episode, but I'll look at other programs that break it down to show those Easter eggs because it was just so much like trophies on the walls. I was like, okay, that looks familiar. Okay, that one. I was like, I don't know the names. I can't remember where did I see this character for before.
Yeah.
So those trophies,
I mean, some of
definitely,
them were
and
just
the
straight up
murals.
mythical creatures, but like I know what you're meaning, and they had
I
other
mean,
artifacts
one of
there
them
too.
one of them looked like Dracula, and it says in his transformation form.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, and a lot of people
Okay,
think that is Dracula, and I'm like, I don't think Dracula would have been dead, but I think that would have been like one of his lackeys or something like that, because there's a
possibly.
lot of different vampires in the Marvel universe, but
Right.
still,
And plus, what? Well, no, that's different because I'm saying then if that's Dracula, then there'll be no need for Blade. But that's from a different character. That was well, no, in the comic books, Dracula was his father, right?
Dracula wasn't
Character.
his father, but Dracula was the one who killed his father figure. If we're talking about like in the comic books, the person that taught him how to hunt vampires and how to be was his father figure, and wasn't the one that we saw in the movies. It was a different guy, and that was the one that Dracula killed. So it became
Okay.
a whole personal thing for that.
Also, before we close it out, I think it was a missed opportunity to have Blade make a cameo here.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it would have been this easy thing to just sneak him in for a cameo potentially.
Right.
I mean they
It
could have
doesn't have to
snuck in
been
a
that
lot of other characters for a cameo.
true. It didn't have to be such a big thing, too. It could have been like maybe like a poster, like a wanted poster or something like that. That since these people are monster hunters and they consider him a monster because since his soul is
You can argue tainted because he's part vampire.
tainted, right? Or his DNA is
Yeah,
tainted. So
it would have been funny if Blake came in and said, "I suggest sushi."
right on like off
Yeah,
camera like Eternals.
because a lot of people were saying, by the way, that scene was like a homage to the first Avengers credit scene, where they're like, "Anybody for shawarma?"
Maybe, but that would have been a nice one too, right? Just like again, if you said like in the Eternals, he said, he's had us a line off camera, and here in the off camera too, he says it, and they both turn and you're shocked by that or surprised. That would have been cool. All right. So safe to bet. Worth the watch. Yes.
Yes, worth the watch.
Okay. All right. That will be it for us for today. That was our marvelous review of Werewolf by Night. Holy crap. What was
Your camera just zoomed in. It's like that's when you got to add in the wolf sound.
but I didn't, that was actually really cool, but at the same
Good
time,
timing.
yeah. Oh, now I gotta take it back. So here we go. Until next time, will be the next time. I am Angel.
I'm Adan.
Love you, bro.
Love you too, bro.